Why do we write? Well, we write so we can learn, teach, and or entertain. We also write or journal to sort, solve, and manifest ideas. How do we begin? Well, you begin by starting and telling a story that you would actually like to read yourself. That's really the only way that you can do it. Or you educate and you teach in print the way you like to learn. If you need assistance with the creative process, remember I do have a webinar that will be available shortly on the creative process. And I also encourage you to work with a coach or consultant to help customize the process for yourself personally and collect and prioritize your thoughts to provide some structure for your book. Once your manuscript is as complete and as thorough as possible without driving yourself crazy, and I underscore that, most of you will know if you are a writer, here are the next steps on the path of an author. Set goals. Now this might sound a little redundant or perhaps obvious to you, but it is really worth going over because I talk to so many writers and authors who don't do this, and it really adds to the confusion with all the choices that are out there. It's important that you envision what you want your outcomes to be with your book. It is truly different for each and every one of us. Get clear about who your target audience is. Although we really often want to be almost all things to all people, that's really not possible. People outside who you think your target audience is certainly have the potential of being attracted to your work. However, if you don't have some clarity around that, you will get lost, and your marketing won't be as accurate or specific. It's important also to give thought to how you want to market your book once it is ready and actually before it is ready. And we'll talk a little bit about that afterwards. Going through this particular process will help you with all your decisions moving forward. How do you want to publish? Now, this is a huge question. I'm sure that many of you have investigated many options out there and heard many terms, and it changes almost daily in this industry, as I've come to learn. There's self-publishing. Most of you are familiar with that. You do the research, learn the necessary technology, hire the services, negotiate the price. Partner publishing, that's my company, IC Publishing. It's a blend of self and traditional models. You have a partner and a service provider in one. You can customize the services that you need and do the things that you know you're good at in that process as well. Traditional publishing, you pitch your manuscript to select publishers, as many as you can, for consideration and wait and hope for a response. And I say that with the utmost respect because there's no right or wrong way to publish. Given that the control is partly in the hands of the author for self or partner publishing, it will typically take 4 to 6 months. Doing it yourself can vary just in general based on your own available time, expertise, and resources. Traditional publishing, there's no question, it does take much longer, sometimes years. It's not because you don't have a great book. It just depends on how specific your genre of work is and what traditional publishing houses are looking for at any given time. So if your book and your genre is hot topic, sort of flavor of the month, then there is a lot of great potential for a traditional publisher to pick you up and produce you. Although, again, that process can take a fair bit of time for you. We'll move to the next slide. There we go. There is no one right way to publish, as I just mentioned. I just want to reiterate that you have to go back to your goals frequently, know what kind of help you need and want, know your strengths, and where you want to put your energies. Review your costs and the time associated with each. Now, I'm going to expand a little bit on traditional or partner publishing. Traditional publishing may be good for someone writing a series of books on a current hot topic or a great fiction book that one might want to build into a sequel. Literary agents can help here too. Literary agents help you find the ideal publisher for you. And they basically take a percentage, usually I think it's 15% of what your advance might be with a traditional publisher. Now, when we talk about an advance from a traditional publisher, that's the upside, especially for someone who wants to just write. And the the advance will help them sustain, themselves, sustain their living, if you will, and then go back to writing their next book, if you will. That is the upside, that you can advance from a traditional publisher. There are still definitely expenses associated with that process. They don't do everything. The other part is that you make much less per unit sold, although you have a very large platform to work with and work through with a traditional publisher. So again, there's no one right way or wrong way to do this. It's just gathering information for yourself and following what makes most sense for you. Self or partner publishing might be good for personal growth, business, communication, personal stories, anthologies, and so on. And I did talk a little bit about the pluses of that. I would also say that self and partner publishing does provide you with sometimes a fair bit more control and influence as far as content and design. Again, that's not good or bad in comparison to traditional publishing. It's just that. Now we move on to outlining the creative and production process. This is pretty key. A manuscript evaluation, for the most part, is an independent evaluation of someone's manuscript, the book that they've written, to give some concrete feedback, some constructive guidelines. I don't often use the word criticisms because it's really not that. It's just a fresh perspective and a fresh pair of eyes, independently looking at a manuscript after an author, even another editor, has looked at that book for hours on end through the many layers of creation and editing. We at IC Publishing often start with the manuscript evaluation almost regardless of where an author is in the process. And the value of that is for us to be more familiar with the work and how we can best serve the author, and what recommendations we might be able to make for them, either through the work that we do or through the work that our contacts may be able to provide and the support they may be able to provide. And then we move to, in the creative and production process, you've all heard about editing and proofreading and cover design and inside text design and typesetting and printing. I want to just elaborate on each one of those a tiny bit. Editing is critical. And at IC Publishing, I'll share with you again, we have at least 3 or 4 eyes on our projects all the time. And they're very keen eyes. So whatever your selection process is, to have someone help you with that process, I really encourage you to make sure that there is more than one person working with you on your book, the quality of the content, and how crisp and clean the overall feel and flow is, how accurate your content is. That includes documenting references, sourcing, all where you've gotten your information, certainly with nonfiction especially, that you've got all your permissions in place, and also proofreading. Let's face it, there's almost nothing worse, and perhaps I'm saying that with my editor's cap on, but there's nothing worse than reading a book that I know is absolutely amazing, but I see a lot of errors in it, and it really interrupts the flow. So there is a lot of freedom in the editing and proofreading process these days, a lot more than there ever used to be. So we still believe in gearing it to the author's style. It's not about changing the personality or style of an author's writing. It's just making it look the absolute and read the absolute best that it possibly can, while still having the author's personality and message shine through loud and clear. There's also cover design. And again, this might be real obvious, but the cover design is the one and only visual, really, that you have to draw the reader in, your audience in more, to even entertain picking it up. Unless they've read something about you already, know your work, or know you, the visual of your book and what's on the outside cover is what provides the impetus for that reader to open that book, Check out what the inside says, maybe the contents of your table of contents, your chapters, your foreword, your testimonials especially. So your cover design is pretty darn important. Then, of course, your inside text design, it's got to be complementary to your content, and typesetting. Typesetting is critical. So when you go to get your book printed professionally, it is laid out and looks, it represents you very, very well, and as I say, very professionally. If it's not properly done, you have spacing issues, and it does make it a less enjoyable read, if you will. Printing, just a quick note on printing. There are printers that specialize in printing books, and then there's your corner store printer. And please don't get me wrong, that's no slight intended, but you must be careful with your selection process when it comes to printing, and know who you're dealing with, know your stuff, or know that you have an expert acting on your behalf to get the best quality product. Because your book is out there. Once it's in print, it's out there, and it's out there forever pretty much. Just like your cover design. Yes, you can change those things, and we have a lot more flexibility in changing those things than we ever used to, but we don't want to be distracted by something that is not as good as it could be when we know the content is absolutely amazing. So we'll move to the next slide in basic marketing. And just to go over a couple of things here in a little bit more detail, pre-marketing is quite invaluable. If you're organized with the creative process and you either have the time or you're working with someone who is an expert in that process to help you pre-market and promote your work. That may include something as basic as bookmarks and sharing that at events that you attend, supporting functions that would suit your genre, or you put them in swag bags. There's lots of different ways that you can put marketing materials out there into your community, your immediate community and your community beyond. Also creating a blog on the subject of your book if you don't already have one. Get more specific about what the audience is going to learn and why they would want to pick up your book. Not in a salesy sort of way, but much more editorial sort of way, so there's a real add value there for your audience. Sharing tidbits on social media or to build a buzz around your book is also great. Virtual book tours is relatively new. I remember just as recent as a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago, I really didn't even get this concept. But basically, all it is guest blogging. Now, there's a process that you have to go through. You have to pitch your blogs to other professional, reputable sites that have an audience that is similar to yours. And this basically helps you, once they approve your blog for guest blogging on their site, they'll give you the date that they're willing to do that. There's a link back to your site as well. And sometimes there's an opportunity to, if you have a blog and it's complementary to the person that is inviting you to guest blog, you can offer the same opportunity. But that's not always the case. Virtual blog and book tours are becoming much more popular. And once you've pitched your blog and it's accepted, it's another opportunity for you to share your message, unique content, add value content, editorial content that interests people enough to check you out further, and certainly add value to the blog site that you're on. There is some online radio interview opportunities depending on your content and genre that can be looked into. There are people who can do this for you. We provide the service at IC Publishing. You can also do it yourself, and or you can work with ourselves or someone else who is an expert in this area. There are also book signings. Book signings is another great great way to engage one-on-one with your audience. Some of the local Indigo and chapter stores are great at supporting local authors. We have a great connection with some of our local stores and can help our authors facilitate bookings with them at certain times of the year. Then again, marketing on Amazon.ca or Amazon.com. Typically, as a Canadian company, we market on Amazon.ca. We have an upgraded professional account with them. You can do that yourself as a self-published author, or you can be represented under the umbrella of, say, a partner publisher like IC Publishing, or you can do it under a traditional publisher where they would put you on Amazon.com. Most of our products are on Amazon.ca, the physical products. Amazon.com is one of the platforms that our electronic books are sold on. And again, that's an opportunity for you as an author to do that independently or wherever it feels right for you. There are also speaking opportunities and events and other collaborative platforms like our bookstore that will help you expand your reach to your target audience. And then, last but not least, there is consignment opportunities. That's typical in smaller boutique stores that are open to showcasing your book, perhaps hosting a book signing, an interactive book signing, and keeping a few of your books on their store shelves. When they sell your book, then they take a percentage. Typically, it's I would say 25 to 40%. If it's on consignment with chapters, it's 45%. And the value of that is if your book is one more place. It's not going to make or break the success of your book and your launch and your reach. It's part of it, and as many of these things are. There's also volume purchasing. Some stores will buy your books, at a certain level of volume depending on what they think will sell in their store. Again, that might be associated or affiliated with an interactive book signing. There's also the college bookstores. That really depends on, again, your genre. So we'll move to the next one. All right, now I'd like to do a recap for you. And then it looks like by checking our time, I will be able to elaborate on a couple of other things for you and then take questions. So let's recap. Number one, it's so important that you develop your own style as a writer and as an author, and simply start by telling a story that you would like to read, or educate and print the way you would like to learn. Number two is set goals. Know your why. Know what you want and what you don't, and who your target audience is. Decide how involved you want to be. That's number three. How much influence or control you would like to maintain. And number four, that's a given. Determine your budget and follow the publishing route that most resonates with you and supports all of the above that I've just shared with you. And number five is don't take shortcuts in the content or design creation. Content is always king, as we talk about on blogs as well as books, etc. And remember, the design is intended to complement that and draw your audience in, especially the new audience that doesn't know you yet. The quality of your message and the look of your book will represent you forever. And then number six is remember the importance of your own participation in the marketing and promotion of your work. This is a given regardless of the publishing route you take. And last but not least is number seven, consult and work with those who believe in your work as much as you do. Now, before we do a quick wrap, and I can give you my contact information on the next slide, I'll just touch quickly on a couple of other things that I feel are very, very important in the process. There's two. One, going back to the editing. This is something that I could probably talk on for a good 10, 15 minutes. And that is, although I won't today, the importance of making sure that you have listed to the best of your ability, perhaps with professional and expert assistance, ensuring that you have all your references, your endnotes, your citations, from where you have obtained your content. unless you are writing a fictional account, you're outlining perhaps your own teachings, your own interpretation of teachings, it's quite likely you will have collected significant information over the years. If you're a person in business and you're doing an educational book, if you will, it's critical, absolutely necessary that you do note all your sources properly. And there is specific structure that is recommended for that. We use the Chicago Manual of Style. You can look that up online and check it out. There's some great information there. And also permissions. I'll give you a quick example of permissions. I have had the great pleasure of now authoring 2 books, and I've had wonderful support. And my last book, Working from Home and Making It Work, there was a quote from another book that I wanted to use, and it was a couple of paragraphs with a little bit of an intro before and after, and the author was fantastic in supporting the use and proper credit given in the book, and there was no other request. He could have very easily said no, or for a fee, yes. I had another author who wanted to use a poem to end her book, and the answer, it took a while. It took about a month before we heard back from the source, and they said, sure, no problem, to the tune of $2,000. So, suffice to say, the question is, will it make or break the content of the book? It didn't make or break the content of the book. And so the question then became, how can we modify the end of the book to create the same or similar impact? In discussions with the author, we were able to do that, and not to the tune of $2,000, for sure. And on one other note, although we all have different opinions about the whole converting books to electronic platforms, it is a day and age where I believe it's very necessary to make your book available at every platform. So there is the good old-fashioned PDF, that's your ebook. There's the Mobi, and there's EPUB. Those 2 are electronic platforms that allow people to download your book on a Sony reader, or iPad, etc., etc. And you can search on the internet and look up how to get that done yourself, and or your publisher or author's assistant should be able to help you with that as well. We have an account with a company that helps us get all of our electronic conversions done and posted actually on approximately 10 e-store platforms to make our reach as far as possible, nationally, internationally, of course. So that's pretty much it as far as the little extra details that I want to share with you for now. And I encourage you to watch for my next webinar too, called Bring the Book in You to Life. And it will be focusing on the creative process basics, and I'll be offering some great tips and guidance for developing ideas and structure around your book, the concept of it, the content. It's also going to be great to apply to developing workshop series and or keynotes as well. So with the